Good evening. I'm Bird Lochte of the League of Women Voters of Humboldt County. Candidate forums are on Zoom this year because of the pandemic. All candidates for our forums this fall received Zoom invitations and passcodes to their special forums a few days in advance. League members will host, moderate, and time the meetings. Only these league members and the candidates themselves will be present in the Zoom sessions. No additional participants will be allowed. A brief caveat, this Zoom forum format is all new to the League of Women Voters of Humboldt County. Anyone who has participated in digital events over the last 5 months knows that inevitably there will be technical glitches and rough spots during the forum. Often these glitches are based entirely on an individual's physical glitches and their location and bandwidth, internet service. We urge candidates and viewers to be patient and understanding. If someone's screen freezes, a speaker's words come out strangely, or a participant gets bumped out and has to rejoin and so forth, please, kindness and a sense of humor are essential here. This forum is being recorded and aired for anyone to view on Access Humboldt and YouTube. Links to the recorded forums and schedules will be advertised and made available to the public by the League. This video recording is the property of the League of Women Voters of Humboldt County. The link to the video may be shared, but no portions of this video may be used for promotional or advertising purposes by the candidates or organizations. Tonight, the League presents the candidates for election to the Arcata City Council. Please wave as I give your name. Candidates are for 3 available positions: Michael Winkler, incumbent; Stacey Atkins-Salazar; Emily Grace Goldstein; Paul Pitino, incumbent; Kimberley White; Sarah Schaefer; Collin Yeo; Camilla Zapata; and Nick Matthews. The terms are 4 years and will begin in January 2021. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League is dedicated to providing impartial information to voters about candidates and the political process in order to help them make informed decisions. This is part of our citizen information education program. The purpose of a candidate meeting is to give citizens an opportunity to hear the candidate's view on a variety of issues. The League of Women Voters does not endorse candidates or political parties. We're now going to begin with Kimberley White and her opening statement.
Hi, thank you. As we begin to recover from COVID-19, we need to take this opportunity to address social inequities as we move forward to a stronger, better, and more resilient Arcata. My platform is equity and social justice and how disparity permeates through affordable housing, unhoused, children and family services, the economy, and public safety. In particular, COVID-19 has only highlighted the need to protect the vulnerable small businesses that are so crucial to our economy. We should examine police reform to address systemic racism and inequities in our community. We also need to look at the disparities in the environmental deep ecology realm as we address this climate crisis. It is my goal to make sure all vulnerable populations have equal access. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. so aptly put it, it is not possible to be in favor of justice for some people and not be in favor of justice for all people.
Thank you. We will now hear an opening statement from Nick Matthews.
Good evening. My name is Nick Matthews, and I'm running for the Arcata City Council. I have 24 years of experience working with the public and local businesses. I have spent a good part of the past 10 years as a board member for the Arcata Main Street in an effort to better our town and showcase our wonderful community. My goals are working on strengthening the Arcata economy, maintaining strong public services, and addressing Arcata's homeless and mental health issues. In addition, I feel that we need to work on maintaining our natural resources and making Arcata a more welcoming community by embracing the new social distance norm. I feel we need to continue to move forward with widening sidewalks, increasing bike lanes, and supporting the revitalizations of areas such as the Creamery District. I really look forward to the opportunity of working with my fellow council members in an effort to achieve these goals.
Thank you. Next is an opening statement from Collin Yeo. Unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that technical difficulties. My name is Collin Yeo. I'm running for Arcata City Council. I would like to remind everyone that the 19th Amendment, gave women the right to vote, was passed only 100 years ago this summer, which gives you an idea of the notion of how close in our history injustice is and how it continues to permeate our current society. In the wake of COVID-19, I'm very concerned about economic injustice. I'm very concerned about austerity being borne on the backs of those who are the working class people and those who are marginalized in our society. I would like to pursue ways to improve access to affordable housing, maybe take it out of the market entirely by forming a sort of public bank that AB 857, which was passed last year, will allow us to do. There are a lot of things that the city needs to address, but looming in front of us right now is the twin disasters of COVID-19 and climate change. And we need somebody who will look towards that as a concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear an opening statement from Sarah Schaefer.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Schaefer, and as you might have heard, I'm running for Arcata City Council. I'm a born and raised Arcadan, and I'm running because I want to give back to the community that I just hold so near and dear to my heart. I'm a high school history teacher, and the history of Arcata and this country definitely informed my politics and leadership style. Being a history educator gives me a unique set of skills to solve problems and recognize patterns within our community and bring people together to solve those problems. As a member of the City Council, I want to address the needs of people and work together for a safe and livable Arcata for everyone. Committed to creating an Arcata that values the voices of all residents, regardless of age, gender, race, or socioeconomic status. During these unique times, I want to help support local businesses to thrive and bring a stronger sense of community that spans our diverse population, especially the HSU community as well, and focus on housing, community building, and investing in Arcata's future. It's time for a fresh, younger perspective from the next generation of Arcata's leaders, and I'm ready to serve this amazing community. Thanks.
Thank you. We will now hear an opening statement from Michael Winkler.
I'm the person with the most experience and proven record that Arcata needs. I've served 12 years on council and 3 years as mayor. In my role as mayor, we fast-tracked essential COVID-19 public health measures, developed safe shelters for the homeless, set up protections for evictions, and enacted plans to reopen businesses. I've made sure that vital services remain available, and I've kept our systems working and the city financially sound. Working with Police Chief Ahern, we will complete reforms so that police stay committed to protecting all community members. I've led the successful effort to move the cannabis industry out of our neighborhoods and into a stable industry that offers high quality jobs and great local economic benefits. I work in the renewable energy field and affordable housing. I'm an expert in environmental stewardship, solar affordable housing, and I've been involved many years in the homeless services on the city council. And I lead the city's initiative to phase out fossil fuels.
Thank you. Next is an opening statement from Camilla Zapata.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this event and for this opportunity. We have difficult years ahead of us with the need for an economic recovery, the evident realities of climate change occurring all around us, and a need for dialogue on the glaring social inequalities that have gone unaddressed. My campaign is centered on economic recovery, social equity for all citizens, and a focus on environmentally beneficial policies. If elected, I will work towards helping to create a platform where all members of the community have a voice and are accounted for. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Next is an opening statement from Emily Grace Goldstein.
Hello, my name is Emily Grace Goldstein. I've been a member of the Arcata community for the majority of my adult life. I came here to attend Humboldt State University and I received my bachelor's degree in critical race, gender, and sexuality studies. I then went on to get my master's degree with a focus in public policy and administration. I've been a case manager for houseless individuals, survivors of human trafficking, as well as survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, and a consent education peer educator. I currently use all of this experience to serve this community through public health. I'm a public policy, public health coordinator in Arcata and other rural parts of the North Coast. I'm running for city council because I know that not every person in Arcata feels like they are heard by their elected officials, and they do not always feel represented by those who we elect. And I have based my campaign on listening to those in this community. We need to change a system that only serves the most privileged in our community.
Thank you very much. We will now hear an opening statement from Paul Pitino.
Hi, I'm Paul Pitino. I'm running for City Council in Arcata for like the 4th time. And I just have to say that at this point in my life, I'm comfortable as a representative for the city. I feel open and available to anybody that recognizes my car or my house. Sometimes when I'm on the council, I look at who am I in this council? And I feel like I'm the center of a balanced scale of council positions. And it's worked very well for me to help get a majority and get something done. So if you need to look at more details on me, look at my website, paulpitino.com. And my campaign is limited, as I generally am a face-to-face knock on your door person, no money, no lawn signs, no anything. But this time, I'll just have to trust that you'll remember my name. Thank you.
Thank you. The final opening statement now is from Stacey Atkins-Salazar.
Thank you for providing us with this opportunity. I am excited to be running for a seat on the Arcata City Council. I am a native of Humboldt County. I have a master's degree in psychology from HSU. I have owned a successful small business in Arcata for over 20 years. I have served as a volunteer in many capacities in our community, including 7 years as a school board member. I am a wife and a mother and someone who is deeply concerned about the future of Arcata. Arcata is a progressive, industrious, and compassionate city. We are on the right track, but we have work to do. I want to help our community find common ground as we address the many issues we are faced with. We clearly have a housing crisis. There is a lack of affordable housing, and our streets are filled with people with nowhere to go. Our already fragile economy is suffering from the pandemic, and we need to reimagine the role of law enforcement in our city. I want to help the City of Arcata to move forward in a thoughtful, positive, and equitable direction for our community.
Thank you. Now we're ready for our questions. And Stacey Atkins-Salazar, you will answer this question first. The question is, what do you like best and value most about living in Arcata?
I love living in Arcata. There are many things to value. I value the people in Arcata. We are a different community. We are unique. And I feel that in general, we're a community that cares more about what's on the inside of a person than the outside. And to me, that is what's truly important. I value having Humboldt State in our community. It raises us from just an ordinary small town to something that is much more unordinary and special because of our relationship with HSU and the opportunities that it provides for us. I love our parks and trails and our outdoor facilities. The marsh is, of course, one of our crowning jewels, the Arcata Plaza, and the Redwood Forest. So we have so much to offer here in our community.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next on this question.
It's what we love best and most about the community.
What you like best and value most about living in Arcata?
I think I love being able to bike everywhere I'd like to go. and feeling safe in doing so. It is a rare thing to have bike safety in a community. I value the resourcefulness of our community and the interconnectedness between the college and the city, and how closely they've worked throughout history to create things like the wastewater treatment facility. I love being able to talk to and be friends with all of my neighbors, regardless of age, demographic. I can talk to anyone wherever I go throughout my day, and mostly everyone is friendly and engaging and genuinely cares about one another and their well-being. I love the nature. I love being so close to the community forest, and then I can go on foot from wherever I am in Arcata and be in the old growth forest.
Thank you. Emily Grace Goldstein, you're next with what you like best and value most about living in Arcata.
Thanks. I love this community. I chose this as my home. I didn't grow up here, but I will still remember the very first time I came to Arcata, and I walked down the street and every single person just was happy. People smiled, they waved, and I was like, this is the most amazing and unique place. I love the people of this community more than anything else. I see both kindness and friendliness in the people that live here, as well as a passion to make this the best community that we can be. And that's really a lot of what has inspired me to want to run for city council is the people. I see their passion and it drives my passion.
Thank you. Kimberley White, you're next with this question.
Great. I think what I like most about this community is that everyone is environmentally conscious. And sometimes I take that for granted. When I go back home, I just assume that everyone recycles. And I'm always surprised that that's not the case. What I really value about this community is that during COVID, those that were the most able-bodied stepped up for those who were not and did the shopping and did things that needed to get done. In particular, right now we're facing these fires, and if you haven't seen it, we have an uprising of our community helping those who are being displaced from the fires, gathering donations. We have such a generous, kind, compassionate community. And that's what I really value about Arcata.
Thank you. Sarah Schaefer, you're next with this question.
Okay. What I value most about Arcata, I've been born and raised here, and I'm one of those few people that left for college but came back because I couldn't stay away. I'm a product of our amazing schools, attending Toby Creek, Arcata High, and HSU to get my teaching credential. And so, I mean, being part of this amazing community is what really makes me value Arcata the most. Definitely also looking at all the innovative businesses, from exotic restaurants and cuisine to cannabis to tourism, happening here in Arcata is amazing to see. I've also been a pretty integral part of the local volunteer community, being involved in Lost Coast Rotaract through the local Rotary clubs, and seeing the number of people that really care about this community and get involved to make people's lives better is truly just inspiring to be a part of. Along with what everybody else has said about this amazing environment, you're where the redwoods meet the coast, along with our beautiful marsh and everything like that. It's just a special community to be a part of, and I think it's really a great place to be. So thank you.
Thank you. Collin Yeo, you are next.
Hey, as a culture writer for the last 3 years and someone who studied the music and nightlife around here, I have to agree with most of the other people that it is the people of the community that makes this place so special. This is an unusual place to live in the sense that people who live here don't only consider their own lives, but the lives of other people and other people who aren't even born yet. They think about what the city might look like in 50, 60, 70 years. I've lived in cities and places where that's not the case. The only thing people care about seems to be the day-to-day hustle. You have to really love Arcata to live here. You have to really love the people. It's not the most economically easy place to live. It is a bit away from, big cities and so forth. So you have to really love the place to live here. And you really feel that when you interact with the community. And couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Winkler, you're next with this question.
Well, as a candidate many times for Arcata City Council, what I found, something that I really love here is people really will open up and talk about what's important to them. I came up here with a very liberal perspective, and I found that I also was able to understand the perspective of people who are much more conservative than I was. Even, since it's Arcata, I also listen to people much more to the left than I am. The reason I came up here was environmental sustainability and renewable energy, which I've become an expert in. We've got tremendous number of small businesses in cannabis field, in my own field. And I love the Arcata Plaza. I love the Redwoods. And I love that we've actually preserved our neighborhoods so that this looks like the town that and its history that's being preserved here. And there aren't very many other places that have that here. And so my partner and I just never wanted to leave. This is the place we're going to live the rest of our lives. And I've been honored for the years I've been able to spend on the Arcata City Council.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, you're next.
Well, I really love Arcata for a number of reasons. I think most of all, what stands out to me is the small town feel that it has. I've been involved in a number of festivals, including the Oyster Festival and Trick or Treat on the Plaza. And I've been, putting up the Christmas lights every year for Caesar and Wonder and Light has always been something that I've enjoyed doing. My son actually helped me with that when he was younger. We literally climbed every pole in this town to put lights on them. I love going to the farmers markets every year or every week. It's so nice to walk down there. My wife and I walked around there Saturday and ran into so many people I know from my store. And it's always a pleasure. It's always so nice to walk around this town. And when I bring family into the area to visit for the holidays or whatever it might be, they really get the same feel that this is a small town and that everybody really knows each other and respects each other. And I feel that it's a wonderful place to raise my children. I have 3 kids going to the school system here, and we're definitely
Thank you.
facing the challenge.
Thank you. Next, Paul Pitino.
Hi, Paul Pitino, running for City Council in Arcata, and I came here in 1993 with 3 kids, no job, no friends, very little money. I found that the community, as I asked for things, helped me. I became part of the community by volunteering, becoming a part-time teacher, and I found that the 3 things that I came here for was small town, Northern California with a university, and bingo, we're like the only place that fits that description. One of the things about a small town, I love it. I love knowing everybody. I have to be honest, everybody knows me. So it's you can run, you can't hide in this town. So for me, being transparent, it's easy. People know me, I know them. I love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to the next question now, first with Michael Winkler. And the question is, please comment on the Arcata City Council's recent unanimous approval of a budget which reduces the Arcata Police Department funding by nearly $750,000.
In being responsible stewards of the city financially, we knew that we were going to have reduced tax revenues. And so what we tried to do was to reduce the budgets of the individual departments fairly and evenly. So it is really no criticism of the Arcata Police Department to have reduced their budget, because we did that across the board. But what we did do is preserve the critical functions of the city, of the police department, so they continue to protect the citizens of Arcata. And we're also actively working on reform, 8 Can't Wait, Project Zero. And so eliminating chokeholds, de-escalation training, and then bringing in the social workers to coordinate with the police, so that in cases of mental illness, it's a social service function and not a police function.
Thank you. Paul Pitino, you're next with this question.
Yeah, as far as the police department's budget being reduced, the whole city's budget was reduced. Police department being the single largest part of our budget, obviously had to be reduced. Hopefully, when funding comes back, we'll be able to reallocate that to social work type helpers, public service officers, PSOs, the people that we have now that very few of them, that we can expand and, look at a way that instead of just a call to the cops, we can differentiate between need for armed response or not. And I think that's a critical point that we could save money on and actually be more effective. When it's not necessary to have armed response, have someone who can work it out without the gun. So thank you.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, you're next with this question.
Well, I really wasn't involved much in this budgeting, as we know, but it is understandable that it was cut straight across the board. And they're exactly right. The police department has the largest budget, and it was necessary to make cuts there as well. I know that they cut, I believe, 2 officers out of lost their jobs because of these cuts. I would like to see more numbers. I've been looking into the budgeting for the 2019-2020 budget that was just passed, and I haven't seen a lot of figures as far as where all the cuts went, but I agree, they had to go straight across the board, and they did have the largest budget to be cut from.
Thank you. Sarah Schaefer, you're next with this question.
Yeah, in regards to these budget cuts, I think kind of across the board, a lot of us are agreeing that, in this time during the pandemic, with the department having one of the largest budgets in the city, it's the right call to make that choice along in conjunction with kind of the overall social movement in our society to defund police, or at least reallocate these resources to more crisis counselors, mental health workers that can help better solve these problems that police are dealing with. I also think that in these times of shelter in place, where there are less people out attending events, out in the streets in the city, causing ruckus, whatever it might be that police would respond to, it kind of makes sense that these would be the budgets that would be cut at this time. And I think, as we go, as the city's bringing in more revenue, as we recover from the pandemic, it's still going to be a budget that is on the table to look at reallocation of these funds and see where this money is going and kind of what the services our city needs and how best to serve the people and the police that are responding to these crises within our community as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Emily Grace Goldstein, you're next.
Thank you. So I think that for anybody who has checked out my platform, it's no secret that much of it is based on reallocation of police funds into vital social services for our community. So I think that, as many have said before me, in a time of COVID when we need to make cuts and the police have such a large budget, that was definitely the right way to go. I actually believe that we can make further cuts with the police budget and take that money and put it into things that we need in our community, such as more housing and mental health care services, as well as how some others have talked about. I have a social work background and a public health background. I really see the need for having more mental health professionals take on some of these roles and diverting funding into making sure that we have the right kind of support as opposed to over-policing in our community.
Thank you. Next is Stacey Atkins-Salazar.
Thank you. So I do think it's important to reiterate that the city's policy in general is typically to make cuts across the board. So the cuts, even though they were large to our police department, weren't punitive. So it's not so much about reducing the budget of the police department, but as some of the other candidates have pointed out, it's more about reallocating those funds, whether it be through the police department or taking it through a different agency. The bottom line is we just need more social work in social workers and healthcare workers in our community to supplement the work that the police do and sometimes to take the place of it. I'm advocating for more mental health professionals to work with our police department. Eugene, Oregon has a program called Cahoots that is getting a lot of national attention, and this has been a successful model for over 30 years, and they utilize their social workers and mental health professionals, and it supplements their police department very well.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next.
I agree, like all of my other fellow candidates, with this police cuts, police budget cuts. Seeing as how it was almost 60% of Arcata's budget, I do believe that it needed to be cut. I would like to look at this ratio in relation to every other department to see exactly what percentage is coming out of each. And I would like to, when future tax revenues increase again for the city, I would like to, instead of re-implementing it back into the police department, I would like to definitely consider looking at other social work alternatives, and as well as, yeah, social work alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberley White, you're next.
Hi, thank you. First, let me say, it was not a reflection, this budget cut, on APD or Chief Ahern. I was really excited to hear about the Public Safety Committee providing a new direction with input from the community. I am really for this strategic plan and oversight that Chief Ahern is mobilizing. Like the fellow candidates have brought up, the implementation of a mobile intensive crisis unit has long been coming, and I'm excited and happy to hear that it's going to be implemented in the fall, where we will have both a case manager from behavioral health from DHSS, as well as a clinician. So although APD is trained in crises, they're not healthcare behavioral management crises workers. And so I feel like it's going to free them up for other things. And a lot of these mental health issues, they're not a criminal offense. And so likewise, they don't need to have every squad car come into the house when somebody's having a teenager, for example, having a mental health. The sergeant is, am I done with the?
Yes, thank you. Next is Collin Yeo.
So, like a lot of people, my eyebrows went up when I saw the cuts made to the police department, not because I didn't think they were necessary, but because it sort of allowed me to recognize how much of our budget goes to the police in the city. And I think the idea ultimately is one of public safety. And in a more equitable society in the future, one we should build for, you don't have armed intervention from almost anything. I mean, I grew up here. I remember going to high school. I remember having my backpack searched because I wore punk clothes by cops. That's the sort of thing I don't want to see future kids ever have to deal with in this town. And I like some of the things that Sergeant Ahern has said. And I just like the idea of, well, look, if we're going to continue to make cuts, if we're going to continue to look at public safety, let's treat it like public safety. And I don't necessarily think public safety involves a guy with a gun. It's my opinion.
Thank you. I need to let everyone know, I don't know whether you see the green coming up around me, but I keep getting a message that my internet is unstable. So if at some point I have to get off and come back on again, please bear with me. So we're starting a new question. Emily Grace Goldstein, you're the first one. And the question is, Humboldt State University and its students are a big part of the economy and culture of Arcata. How do you propose to help students from out of the area feel welcome this year, while at the same time keeping all Arcata citizens safe from the pandemic?
Thank you. I think this is a super important question. I'm an HSU grad. I have a lot of love for the university. And I am also still really well connected with a lot of on-campus leaders and groups. And I think that that is one of the best ways we can make new students who don't necessarily know the campus so well feel welcome, there's a lot of opportunity still to do Zoom like this, you know, gatherings, trainings, group meetups, things like that, where they can start to feel more integrated into the campus community, get more of that college experience. And so I think putting our support behind the groups on campus, like the Latino Center for Academic Excellence, the African American Center for Academic Excellence, Check It, programs like that, that are already doing that hard work to draw in students and make them feel like they have a place on campus, is something that's really important. It's a way that they can both get to know the community as a whole, as well as get to know the campus culture.
Thank you. Michael Winkler, you're next.
I graduated from HSU in 2002. My strong focus was Campus Center for Appropriate Technology and overall environmental sustainability. So I've maintained strong connections in that field. And so I think it's important that where physical distance is a lot more difficult than it would be before because of COVID, to, as other speakers have said, to have more virtual events. And students are getting used to this, and I think that's an important way of connecting with students. Also, as a member of the Downtown Business Association, Arcata Main Street, that Arcata Main Street has an important role to get students familiar with downtown businesses and let them know what's available to them, what businesses they can go to, and services that are available, and to just make them feel welcome here in Arcata.
Thank you. Kimberley White, you're next with this question.
Hi, I also came to Arcata to attend HSU, and I feel the ties between the university and our community are essential. And I feel like it's very important that as we get back to whatever that new normal might be as we recover from COVID, that we want to make sure that our students do not fall between the cracks. And we're all navigating this together. And so I feel like students they can teach us a lot about technology, first of all. So having virtual meetings, but I feel like it's also important that that in-person opportunity also happens, and we can still do that while being safe through the pandemic. I think that we might think of having a welcome back students. You know, I know that they're already up and rolling, but it's not too late to talk about how we can make them feel better part of the community.
Thank you. Collin Yeo, you're next.
Well, a couple of years ago, I wrote a piece about online student activism at HSU, specifically for the Justice for Josiah case. And the reoccurring thing that I heard from the people who I interviewed and the students was that no one in the city was listening to them. And I think about that a lot. It bothers me. And in this era, we look at, I mean, sure, we look at HSU, it's a fundamental part of our society here. It's the largest employer in Humboldt County. But beyond economics, we really have to look at humans first. And we have to look at the people who are in this university system and are creating that economic machine, and look at them as people, not just like transactional subjects. So in my opinion, whatever we can do to improve feedback and listen to and actually respond to what students have to say, that's gonna go miles for what they've been experiencing classically. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Stacey Atkins-Salazar, you're next.
Thank you. Well, HSU is integral to the spirit of Arcata, and when students come to Humboldt, I want them to fall in love with Arcata, as so many students in the past have done, as so many of the candidates have done. But we need to make sure that our community is welcoming and safe and equitable for everyone. And I appreciate the collaboration that I've seen over the past several years with the City of Arcata and its affiliates and HSU. I think the recognition that we are both important to each other is important, and the more that we can work together, the more successful both of our entities will be. And I would like to continue to partner with HSU to make that happen. I'm a part of Main Street. We recently are filming videos, self-videos for business owners to send to the HSU students to make them feel welcome, just to tell them about what's available in our town and to literally say, welcome to Arcata.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next.
I think that's a great question and one that's come across my mind quite a few times in comparing my own experience as having gone to HSU and how I got most connected into the community was actually my job while I was in school. I got to meet so many people in the community that I would not have met otherwise that are now my primary friend group because of my job. And I worked in the service industry, and most of those industries right now are not providing work or have laid off students who work. And I think that level of connection is really important to find a way to reestablish or provide work for working students in the area. I also think referencing the School of Business Development did research on students on the attrition rate on freshmen and sophomores. And I think that seeing the disconnects in that area and applying them also to this case might be helpful in finding more solutions.
Thank you. Sarah Schaefer, you're next with this question.
Okay. Yeah, so I received my teaching credential from HSU in 2015, and that was the year that I spent as a student at HSU. And I really felt that, you know, I was disconnected. If I hadn't grown up in Arcata, I would have felt very disconnected from the community of Arcata. And I really think that it's important to strengthen that connection between Arcata and HSU, not only because of the economic benefit that HSU brings to the community, but also just the really diverse student population with many gifts that HSU brings in, especially the fact that many of these HSU students come from Southern California. They're part of Latinx and Black communities, and they might not feel welcomed into Humboldt County if there's not an effort to make them feel so. I especially think with the opportunity to have virtual events, it's actually easier to get involved with students and just more involvement with basic student programs and things that are important to our community, things like student radio, things like students involved in the art programs, local history, everything like that. And also being able to offer info on trails and outdoor events that we might be offering as a community to these students to really bring them into, you know, what's going on and make them feel welcomed into Arcata. So thank you.
Thank you. Paul Pitino, your answer, please.
Hi, yeah, I've been studying the town gown issue for some time. I grew up in downtown LA, and universities were absorbed into the community. So I never really realized that I was in the zip code with Cal State LA until I went there a couple of times. When I came here, I purposely came here to be in a small town with the university. And what I got was, I meet students every day, all day long. And the biggest thing I can do is be personally responsible to them to make sure they're invited here. I want them to be here. I want them to know who I am. Anything I can assist them with, I'm there to help them. I think we are, for a small town, we should really have a great town gown committee that can work on problems that are mutual and that help all of us, students, residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, you're next.
Well, it's kind of funny that this is one of the questions, because this is something that we were discussing earlier this afternoon in our Main Street board meeting of how to go about doing this, because this is, as you all know, this year is much different than it has been in the past. And what we usually do with Main Street, at least, is try and come up with programs to welcome the students into town by doing pizza feeds or a variety of different things like that. This year, you know, we can't do our standard pizza feed because you can't, you know, have everybody in one location like that. So what we've decided to do is essentially spread it out amongst all the different businesses that offer pizza so that they can choose which one, and we allocated accordingly to each one. So this is something we've been working on with Main Street for years. As we all know, HSU is a vital part of our community, and we definitely want to make sure that all the students that go there know that they're welcome, and
thank you.
Do our part to bring them into our community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're going to go to a new question now, and we will start with Michael Winkler. The question is, it is time for a general plan update particularly in land use. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I have 8 years of experience on the Arcata Planning Commission, so I'm very experienced in all this. That the last general plan was done in 2020. I'm sorry, it was done in 2000, called the General Plan 2020. And then I also worked on the land use code that's a companion to general plan. So I think it is time that times have clearly changed from what they were before. That we have a very heavy focus now on mixed use. We have a heavy focus on mother-in-law units, accessory dwelling units. And so I think that, and we also have a much higher proportion of rental housing in what traditionally was single-family housing. So I think that we need to look at changing zoning to match the changing needs of people in the community, and also a very strong focus on affordable housing, which other speakers have mentioned. It's a critical need. It's something that I professionally have worked in for many years.
Thank you very much. Emily Grace Goldstein, you're next, please.
Thank you. Yes, I think my initial thought, as Mayor Winkler pointed out, was affordable housing. I think we need to look at how we're using our land and the zoning for our land so that we can ensure that everybody in this community has housing if that's something that they want and need. I know that Measure B is up for on our ballot as well in November, and that will increase the ability to have more affordable housing in Arcata, and I think that's something that's also really important to this problem. I think we can also look at zoning for more infill housing and what we can do to expand more multi-unit, accessible and affordable options.
Thank you. Next is Nick Matthews.
Well, as Emily just stated, it really kind of does come down to Measure B. This will help that out quite a bit. We are going to have to go ahead and decide which areas are available for upgrades and updating. It is important that we do provide affordable housing to virtually anybody that we can. It's really important that we make sure that we work with our senior citizens in the mobile home parks that Paul's been fighting for so long, and to go forward with establishing more housing for those in need. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Stacey Atkins-Salazar.
Well, my home and my business are right on the edge of the Creamery District. In fact, I'm looking at the building right now, and I know that that's one of the main plans of the cities is to infill this part of town, and I think that that's a great plan. There's already so much more life in this part of town, so the more business and housing and mixed use that we can bring in, I think the better. We do need to pass both Measure B to support our cap to raise our cap for low-income housing, and also Measure A to protect our open spaces. And I appreciate that the City of Arcata is being flexible and looking to change zoning and change the as our landscape changes. And I think that that's important. But as we do change our landscape, it will bring controversy, and I think that it's really important as we do that to engage the community, especially in those neighborhoods when change is coming.
Thank you. Collin Yeo, you're next, please.
So yeah, and first and foremost, I think everyone I talk to's mind is affordable housing. A lot of people in the working class here, unlike their predecessors from generations past, can't afford to buy a home here. And there are a lot of people who own multiple units in this town who are essentially having their mortgage paid by the unending stream of renters who come from the university. That's not a sustainable system for the future. Measure B is really good. It raises the cap from 5% to 7.5% usage for a low income. But if we're looking at a 20-year plan, that's definitely not going to cut it either. We need to look at ways to get affordable housing that's outside of market interest, like something that's not just built so that a construction firm can make money on the back end of it, or not just a series of, you know, rental units or something. I like things like I used to live in New Orleans, a longtime resident, and the musicians village there, the buildings there, they match what the town looked like. We could do something like that if we had the initiative, if we had the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Pitino, you're next.
Hi, you know, on the general plan update, I was involved in the 2000 general plan update through my partner and friends that were on the update group. And I think that in order to get a really good general plan, you need a general plan task force, a group that's not just the planning commission and the staff writing the rules. We need to bring in citizens who normally don't participate in land use planning and have them be part of our general plan update. I think that one thing that's really important is that this general plan update, we need to look at it as a guide for how do we infill and how do we deal with the unintended consequences of lack of parking and constraints for our downtown. I think we get a better perspective of land use if we get the population involved, and I really look forward to a task force. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kimberley White.
Okay, so we're actually in the midst of updating our climate change and how that will fit with our general plan land use. And I feel like that's really timely. In the midst of climate crisis, we definitely need to address things like sea level, tsunamis, earthquakes, all of those. So as a planning commissioner, I'm excited to be part of that. Right now, I became a planning commissioner because I had special interest in equitable and affordable housing. We just completed our housing element in December. I was involved in the adoption of the city's newly updated housing element portion. And it included an assessment of housing resources. I would like to see more housing that address the vulnerable, veterans, low income, seniors, and those that the disabled face. We definitely need more housing for students. Most of our families, particularly students, just can't afford to live in Arcata.
Thank you very much. Sarah Schaefer, you're next with this question.
Okay, as all the candidates have really said, and it's obvious in our community with both Measure A and Measure B being on our ballot, that the really important things to people in our community are in preserving our green spaces and expanding our trail and park system, and also increasing our cap on affordable housing and focusing on creating affordable housing within our community, right? And so obviously with the hopeful passing of both A and B, those realities are going to be possible in Arcata. Also looking towards the future and seeing how expansion of business and kind of encouraging community spaces and looking towards what the economic landscape and future of Arcata is going to look like. We're kind of seeing increase of tourism, especially this wave coming up to Northern California for both people that are interested in visiting our redwoods. Also, cannabis tourism is really taking hold in Northern California and taking off, and is a really viable opportunity, especially for Humboldt County, to capitalize on something that is already incredibly popular and profitable. And so I think that just looking at the scape of the plaza and the downtown and creamery area is going to be really vital to the economic future of Arcata and how we use those lands.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next.
I think the city's general update plan needs to definitely focus on affordable housing and mixed use land. The growth management element that's currently in it states to preserve the rural character. And I think that that's something that has been overlooked on some of the affordable housing that has been implemented. I really think that the buildings should exist, like they should fit appropriately within the existing neighborhood context. And I think that that needs to be maintained while also considering a wide range of housing availability for all demographics. Thank you.
Thank you. We're starting with a new question now. Nick Matthews, you will be first. Do you support or oppose Measure F, and why?
I'm a big supporter of Measure F. this really comes down to being a public safety issue. This is something that is really necessary for our community to have. And I feel that for a small amount, we get a large in return out of it. This basically, the Arcata Fire Department, it covers 62 square miles in 5 different communities. And it's been reduced down to 2 firehouses, basically, and eight firemen. And so it's really, really important that we get this one to pass. It comes down to making sure we have our first responders and our firefighters, well funded and resourced in order to respond to the emergencies that can be at hand. If, we've had 2 fires in the last month down on the bottoms here, and if they both occurred at the same time, it would have been virtually impossible for them to respond in a really, really efficient manner. So I'm a big supporter of Measure F. There's no doubt about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Sarah Schaefer, your answer, please.
Yeah, I'm definitely in support of Measure F, especially we need fire protection. And, on average for a single family home, for less than $100 a year for a homeowner or a landlord to pay, it's a small price to pay for this essential service that's protecting property and protecting people and serving our community. I've talked to local firefighters. They are overworked. They are concerned about the amount that they are being asked to do and the amount of space that they are being asked to cover on very little funding. And so we need this now. And so it's not really a time to overhaul a budget and look at where we can pull money from. And I think being able as a community to come together and say, yes, this is an essential service. It protects property. It should be linked to property and taxes on that. It makes sense, and it's going to help our community and help these response times and help our firefighters and our fire staff feel more comfortable working and having our firehouses staffed and ready to go in case of emergency.
Thank you. Paul Pitino, you're next.
Hi. I support Measure F, and I just have to say, I think that the fire department management and whoever pushed forward the last measure kind of assumed that the population was going to follow and just vote it in. And I think what they got from the population was, look a little bit deeper. This isn't going to be automatic from now on. And so I support Measure F. I supported the last measure. And I think that with Measure F, now that they have been rejected once, I think the fire department is going to actually be more responsive to people's concerns and their needs. It's a necessity for us to have the fire department be healthy, but I think they need to pay attention to what the people, community also want. Thank you.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next.
I support Measure F as well. I think that it was assumed that everyone, like Paul Pitino just said, assumed that everyone was going to be in favor of it, and it needed 2/3 majority to pass, and it just got just below that, between 60 and the 66% that it needed previously. And I think for 10 years, it's a very reasonable price point on annual for the 10 years. And I support the fire department, and it goes beyond just the City of Arcata. I think naming it the Arcata measure was limiting people's perception on this, and it was understating the amount that they would actually cover. And it goes beyond just the City of Arcata, and I think it is a very worthwhile measure.
Thank you. Kimberley White, your answer, please.
So I am definitely in support for Measure F. There's so many reasons. First of all, how can we even put a dollar amount on loss of life? I don't know if anybody's pointed out, but it's about like $8 a day for a homeowner, $6 a day for a mobile homeowner. And then let's just think about also just the historic buildings that we have here, like the Pythian Castle, the Jacoby Storehouse, HSU, the JGC, Jolly Giant Complex, all of those. Right now, we only have 3 ladders in the entire Humboldt County. And it's frightening to think that because this didn't pass, that we would lose life, these historic buildings. I just hope that everybody educates themselves and votes yes on Measure F. We have to have it. It's worth it. It's worth every penny. And like I said, you just can't put a dollar amount on life.
Thank you. Michael Winkler, your answer, please.
One thing that surprised me, but I learned being on the city council, is the vast majority of service calls to the Arcata Fire Department are for emergency medical services. But as other speakers have pointed out, that that still a critical function is fire saving, is firefighting. The Arcata Plaza could have one quarter of the Arcata Plaza on the east side could have been destroyed if we had not had that downtown fire station open and operating. And so what critically matters is its response time. If these stations remain closed, that critical minute, that critical 2 minutes is the difference between somebody's life and somebody's death, and buildings burning or buildings surviving. So it's critical that we vote for this and put it into effect and recognize that this is a professional fire department and is no longer a volunteer fire department, and we have to pay to get the high quality people that we need to staff that department.
Thank you. Next is Collin Yeo.
Yeah, like I think pretty much everyone else here, I completely support Measure F. I mean, from the age of Rome to Santa Rosa, fire has been one of the biggest problems that humankind has ever had to deal with. I drove past a fire down on West End, the slash heaps over there in the log deck just this morning. And I can't imagine what it would be like to live in a society with a severely underfunded fire service. So I would like to rather have overfunded than underfunded. If I could say one thing, perhaps one of the reasons why people might balk at the sticker price, or they did last time for Measure M, because maybe it could be a holistic issue. A lot of people's equity might be tied up in, the cost of housing in their homes being sort of like the most expensive thing they own these days. And I think affordable housing would address that. I think a lot of these things are interconnected. So there I go.
Thank you. Next is Emily Grace Goldstein.
Like everyone, all of my fellow candidates before me, I fully support Measure F. I think there are so many reasons to support this. Life above everything else, the health, the safety, the well-being of our community. We need fire services, and the fire departments need to be funded. As we see, California is on fire right now. We all know that. We've had way too many local fires lately in Arcata as well. We need quick response time. We need to have that support and that protection for our community members. And I also agree with what Paul Pitino said earlier. We need to be listening to our community so that when something as important as Measure F comes forward, we can present it in a way that it does pass this time. Because it is really important, and we need it to be understood by the community.
Thank you. Stacey Atkins-Salazar, your answer, please.
I absolutely support Measure F, and I met recently with our fire chief, Justin McDonald, who is one of the endorsers for my campaign, to talk about Measure F. And unfortunately, there are a lot of misconceptions, and so I just would encourage people that are watching our forum, if you are hesitant on that issue, to go to the website of the Arcata Fire Department and read through it. They've really done a great job of addressing what will happen with that money, and really reducing some of the misconceptions that we've had in the past. And not only will it allow us to have all 3 of our fire stations fully functioning, but it will restore 8 vacant firefighting positions, which means, 8 great jobs for people in our community.
Thank you. We're going to start with a new question now, and Sarah Schaefer, you will be first. The question is, please comment on California Proposition 15, the Schools and Community First initiative.
So as a teacher, obviously, I am a huge champion of schools in our community and focusing on teachers and teacher well-being. and also focusing on student well-being and being able to provide them services to, provide special ed services to students and everything along those lines, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. There has been a severe cut to services for special ed students and a lot of inequities that are existing currently that I am witnessing firsthand across the board in local schools, not only in our community, but across California for students not being able to access service hours, et cetera. And so I think being able to revitalize our education system and jumpstart that in the midst of the pandemic is beyond essential and has always been essential to support teachers and support schools in not only this time, but all times.
Thank you. Next, Emily Grace Goldstein, your answer, please.
Yes, I am in support of Proposition 15. I believe that corporations should be paying their fair share of taxes and that our schools are extremely vital, and that by these taxes coming in, we'll actually be able to fund things that we need in our communities, parks, libraries, and more than anything, mental health services. And so all of this are really important things to ensure that California and our community in Arcata are doing well. And there's no reason that large corporations should not be chipping in to support this.
Thank you. Kimberley White, you're next.
So I'm on a school board for a local charter school, and I see the teachers already struggling with resources. And as pointed out by one of the other candidates, we need these resources desperately for children that have IEPs, special needs resources. And I feel like it is essential that we make sure that Proposition 15 does indeed pass. Sorry, looking at those numbers are. So yeah, it's essential for especially with COVID-19. They are already overextending themselves with loans, which is making some of these schools make some difficult decisions and having to cut back when in fact they actually need more staff. So there's my time.
Thank you. Collin Yeo, you're next.
Yes, I not only absolutely support Proposition 15, I support any form of progressive taxing, i.e. taxing that is borne on the backs of those who have resources and goes towards public services for everyone and those who don't. A lot of these adjustments that you see in the language of Proposition 15, they're adjustments that haven't been made since the late 1970s. So obviously this is something that's severely out of whack, and part of the reason why we are living in such an economically unstable and unjust society right now. I mean, there's just obviously sort of like a moneyed ruling class, and the fifth largest economy in the world, and the largest economy in America, and any kind of progressive taxing that could do something about that, I'm absolutely in favor for. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Pitino, you're next.
Yeah, I support Prop 15 basically as an adjustment to Proposition 13. Most of us, I'm old enough to have been around when Proposition 13 was voted in, and the population's general assumption on Prop 13 was it was going to affect your homeowners' taxes, resident homeowners, not commercial industrial property. After it passed, everybody was happy enough that they never thought about it much until they started realizing that the biggest landowners in California, generally big ag, got a giant break. And they've continued to get that break and not paying their share. So for me, Prop 15 is important. It's an important adjustment to Prop 13. It's not exactly perfect, but I think that it's a big step to making our school funding whole and actually doing what the population thought was going to happen 40-something years ago.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, you're next.
I'm in favor of it as well. It's absolutely necessity to have our schools and our public community colleges, so many different things receive a little bit more funding. That's for sure. I would like to make sure that that it is allocated the way that it says that it's going to be. I agree with Paul that it's not exactly perfect, but it is something that is a necessity. And I do remember when Proposition 13 was passed, and exactly what he said. It was controversial at the time. There's no doubt about it. But it is an update to that, and I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacey Atkins-Salazar, you're next, please.
I support Proposition 15 as well. And as a former school board member, I can tell you in the 7 years that I served, we never had a budget surplus where we were wondering where to spend our money. Our educators are working harder than ever, especially now with what has been added to their workload. And we need to work to improve and support our public education by whatever means we are able to. And this is a good tool to do that. All of our people deserve a free, quality education.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next.
I fully support Prop 15 and taxing commercial and industrial properties. A lot of these properties have grandfathered in taxation rates. So whatever time they were purchased, they are taxed at that rate. So it is an unfair advantage for them to be taxed at a lower rate next compared to their neighbors who might have purchased it more recently. And I think that the playing field should be evened on that. I also think adding money back into the school systems is a necessity. Coming from a family full of teachers and administrators in education, I've seen how hard they work, and I've seen how hard they're working to adjust to the current paradigms that we're living in. And I believe that money should be going back into all of those communities in higher education as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Winkler, your answer, please.
Well, I remember when Proposition 13 was passed, and as Paul Pitino said, that people looked at it to help homeowners, but it's been severely abused by corporate landowners using leasebacks and other complicated schemes. So at the very least, it will help make us have a more fair tax system that we have, and also make more money available to schools, available for other public services. And especially now with the extra expenses related to COVID, it's critical that we have this extra tax revenue in order to fund public operations and have a more fair tax system than we've had in the past.
Thank you. We're on a new question now. Paul Pitino, you will be first. The question is, what programs could the council implement to ensure all people, especially people of color, are treated with equity and inclusion in Arcata?
You know, the City Council has been, City of Arcata has been a partner with Equity Arcata for the last, I believe, 3 years plus. And I've been involved in it, and I think it's a great educational tool. It's great for the staff, the police, for anybody involved with the city to actually look at these critical issues having to do with implicit bias, any kind of inequity item that comes up, how we talk to each other, how we look at each other. I think that it's really important for all of us, especially those of us in government, to expose ourselves to what does a community of color see? How does it feel to be here? You know, making assumptions about it is one thing, actually hearing and engaging with people is another. So I really appreciate Equity Arcata. It's been a great resource and has really helped me. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Camilla Zapata.
Just like Paul touched on, the Equity Arcata composed of the community development specialists and the racial equity intern. I think this type of program needs to be expanded on and is only just the beginning dialogue on equity in our community. I believe social resilience is key to moving into the future, and a community is only as strong as its most underserved members. With that said, I believe bringing in figureheads of Native communities as well as all marginalized groups should be brought to the table for all voices to be heard.
Thank you. Next is Stacey Atkins-Salazar.
So I think the key to being successful in our goal of having an equitable community is through education and leadership and outreach, which the city is, has already started on that journey. So I do appreciate that. And as Camilla just said, it's the beginning, and we have progress to make, but it's the educational component of it is what I think is very important. We have to reach out for input to people who are experiencing the inequities. If I'm not in that group that's being marginalized, I'm probably not going to understand what needs to happen. So to reach out to those people is first and foremost. And then we need to continue to partner with local organizations such as the Arcata House, Black Humboldt, Queer Humboldt, our local tribes. We have so many resources in our community that we need to collaborate with so that we can really be a truly equitable town.
Thank you. Next, Sarah Schaefer, your answer, please.
Yeah, I think one of the most important places to start with the equity in our county and in our town in Arcata is recognizing the indigenous land that we are on and the atrocities that have been committed on it. I think a really historically accurate portrayal of our community and our land spaces is of essential importance, and that goes along with what candidates have been saying about education and about kind of telling this true story of Arcata and recognizing that we're living on stolen land with a history of white supremacy, and believing that it's important to recognize that and educate our community on that as a critical part of progressing towards a more just world. Also going along with recognizing that we have a very diverse community brought in by HSU, and I think especially in light of the Josiah Lawson case, recognizing that those voices from our Black communities and our Latinx communities are not often being heard, especially by the City Council. And so I think having more community input and listening to organizations such as Black Humboldt, Centro del Pueblo, and working with those groups to be able to understand the needs of these communities and work towards a more equitable and just future is of the utmost importance.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, you're next.
I agree with virtually everybody who's spoken here on this topic. Equity Arcata is a great foundation. We can move forward with that and build off of the foundation that it has established. Education and leadership, those are both important. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And like they said, go ahead and put ourselves in a situation that we can hear everybody's opinion on this and everybody's take on what's going on, and work forward with everybody as equals. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Winkler, you're next.
As a number of other speakers have mentioned, Equity Arcata plays a critical role. One thing that we've stopped now because of COVID, but we need to start again once it becomes safer, is potlucks, in which people of different ethnicities, people of different sexual orientations can come together as people in an informal atmosphere. As far as the city, we have anti-bias training, which I think is important. And another critical element of feeling welcome is public safety, having to do with the police. We on the City Council established a public safety committee, and we're going to have recommendations from them on direct citizen oversight of police operations and the other police reforms, 8 Can't Wait and Campaign Zero, so that people feel that the police are there for public safety and not are a force that they don't trust. And it's critical to reestablish that feeling of safety from the police.
Thank you. Emily Grace Goldstein, you're next, please.
Thank you. I really appreciate this question. My campaign slogan is literally equity and justice. And so that's really what my campaign is built on. I think that I have like a million ideas about this, but I really think that we need to start listening more to the local tribal communities, specifically the Wiat people whose land we're on. I think we could institute in City Council a designated tribal community position, not somebody like us who's elected, but so that it's not like they could be voted out, but that there's always one person at least from a tribal community who has a voice in City Council. I think that defunding or redistributing police funds is really critical. I have had the opportunity to talk to literally thousands of community members at this point, and again and again, I am hearing how unsafe people feel with the amount of policing we have in Arcata and how it's not serving their interests. I'm also a queer woman, and so representing the LGBTQ community on City Council is really important to me, and I've been lucky enough to be in conversation with Club Triangle and other community groups as well.
Thank you. Next is Collin Yeo.
So I sort of have a lot of the same sentiments that everyone has said thus far. I do think Equity Arcata is an excellent program. I think expansion of programs like that is important. One thing I want to mention that a couple of you have said, Sarah mentioned, we are on native land. That is something that we might want to consider in the future, and we might want to consider something like, for instance, reparations for that, which is something that Asheville, North Carolina did this last year. Oklahoma has also been doing something along those lines. I have been asked about that while campaigning, and frankly, I'm in favor of it. So I think the important thing to do, I mean, as myself, I'm a white guy who grew up here, and so I got to listen to people. The important thing for me to do, and for I think any of us who are less marginalized, is to listen and frame our legislation and our programs based on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberley White, your answer, please.
So yeah, first let me say that I too would like to acknowledge that we're living on the traditional lands of the Wiat people. And as Emily had pointed out, I think that we should have an appointment on the City Council for somebody representing the local Indigenous peoples. I feel like we live in this idyllic community and everybody likes to think that we're colorblind, and this just simply isn't a reality. As a person of color myself, I have experienced racism. We'd like to think that we don't have systemic racism in Arcata, but just talk to the people of color and you will find out. I think the first step we need to do is to create a diversity committee where we have full representation of all people that are representing the marginalized communities. I was really excited to see that we have a fairly diverse candidacy for the Arcata City Council. So I think that it's a start, Equity Arcata, but we have a lot of work to do and we have a lot of difficult conversations, and as a candidate, I'm ready to have those difficult conversations.
Thank you. We have a new question, and we start with Camilla Zapata. The question is, what steps would you take to improve resources and services to Arcata citizens who reside in Valley West?
That's a really good question. I have a few friends that live in that area, and they all have very differing point of views on what they want. Improving services, I feel like the aspect of fast food, we banned fast food in Arcata, and yet it exists in that area. I think it draws a certain, it draws a crowd, and it keeps people in the area that doesn't alleviate some of the concerns of people who own homes in the area or rent homes in that area. I believe that city beautification should be emphasized in more open spaces, more emphasis on natural environment, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Collin Yeo, you're next.
It's really a double-tiered issue because you have people who live there who probably are complaining about the people who don't necessarily live there or who live on the margins there. So for me, I think improving direct aid for the homeless is going to go a long way. providing addiction resources and addiction counseling. It is an area where, let's be honest, there's a lot of visible drug use. And these are human beings who need help, many of them. And so when we talk about quality of life, we're talking about the quote unquote nuisance that a lot of the homeowners feel about the humans who are there. Well, we can't make the humans who are there go away. We have to help them. And we have to provide resources to help them. Now that's going to be difficult in the wake of the austerity of COVID, but I think that would be the step in the right direction, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Sarah Schaefer, you're next.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to, especially recognizing what the Valley West community wants, and also looking at the people that are spending their time in that community that might not own homes or not rent there. I know there is a large problem with homelessness, with drug use, and then also with the parking of large RVs or trailers in that area, and kind of working to find space, rehoming people, and working towards providing these resources towards homelessness, working with Arcata House Partnership to expand temporary shelters and being able to expand services to those areas. And also then looking at kind of revitalization of those open spaces there. I know the City Council has been working a lot on the Carson Park project and working to expand services towards being able to give people access to the Mad River and have park spaces there and open spaces to kind of go out within their own community, rather than trying to have to venture over to the marsh or to Redwood Park to be able to use these green spaces and kind of use these community spaces that are part of Valley West. So
thank you. Paul Pitino, you're next.
Yeah, re-looking at Valley West and saying this was built without a lot of thought, and how can we adjust it without tearing down the buildings? Number one, I think we need a public restroom like we have downtown somewhere in the Valley West Horseshoe, Valley West, Valley East Horseshoe. We need to have attention made to that part of town where we get a lot of transit occupancy tax, the bed tax from those hotels. There's a lot of money coming in there. Having that public restroom there would really make a difference in my mind. Also, the back of the buildings, let's say Valley East Boulevard, if you're on the Valley East side and you look at the back of that shopping center, it's blank, it's ugly, could be a great place for us to put murals, community design murals, the whole length of that, and change people's attitude by what they look at and how it feels.
Thank you. Emily Grace Goldstein, you're next.
I think that one of the biggest things, as Camilla said, was really bringing that area in Valley West into Arcata more. Technically, it's part of Arcata, but we have really separated it in the way that we treat that area as a community. And so I think that we need to make sure that when we talk about Arcata, we're talking about Arcata as a whole. And this definitely looks like things like giving more green spaces, improving the spaces and the facilities in this area, more public resources like a public restroom, I think is a great idea. I also think that we really do need to look at the policing of this area and stop criminalizing houselessness and things related like drug addiction and mental health crises, and instead provide resources. I've had the opportunity to talk with Dr. Spohr at Arcata House about a lot of plans around this. And I think this is the way forward, is to provide resources as opposed to throwing people in jail for survival.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, you're next.
Well, the Valley West is something that has really gone downhill since I've lived here. It seems like for so long it was a place that we wanted to go shopping and spend our time, and over time it kind of got turned into some place that a lot of our community doesn't want to go to any longer, and that's unfortunate. And I agree, it really comes down to the drug use there and the mental health issues and homelessness. It's all put into that one location, and it's really been something that I was just there last week, and we were shopping there, and what I saw was something that I didn't want my children to see. It was something that they were asking questions about. And so I agree, it needs to go forward. I like the cleanup of that and the projects that have been going on there, but there's a lot of room for work there. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you. Kimberley White, you're next, please.
Okay, so I live in the other Arcata. One of the main reasons I joined the Planning Commission was to be a voice for the other Arcata. Sometimes I feel like the ugly stepsister out here. We need so much out here. When I drive down McKinleyville Central Avenue, I see these beautiful baskets of flowers. And it reminds me that we're on the strip of all the hotels and motels. We're the first place typically that tourists are gonna see. We're the first place that families of HSU come when they're talking about maybe having their children attend HSU. That's the first place. I feel like so much that we're sweeping the unhoused to Valley West, and that's not the solution. We need to provide long-term solutions with compassion and dignity. We need a resource center. I asked for a garbage can. I'm probably gonna get myself in trouble here, but I was told we didn't have a budget for it. We just lost our full-time law enforcement in Valley West. They have these visioning projects, but nothing ever comes to fruition. I've been attending them for years. I attend the Valley West cleanup for years and years.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Michael Winkler, you're next.
Well, one thing that's important is that we on the City Council have made it so that we're going to have Carlson Park and we're going to have access to the river, which is a beautiful site. And we also have to make it in the long term so the children can safely cross Giantoli to be able to use that. I was on the Planning Commission when the large affordable housing project, Courtyards at Arcata, was approved, and I strongly supported that. And as I mentioned before, this is the field that I work in, to build affordable housing. We need to work with our Arcata House Partnership and the Night Shelter to improve outreach services to people who are homeless. Also, a lot of people in Valley West live in the mobile home parks that are north of Giantoli. So one important thing we can do on the City Council is to direct money that we get from the federal government through the CDBG program to help rehab and improve and make those mobile home residents safer. And as other people have mentioned, we need to work with service organizations to provide mental health services, drug rehabilitation services.
Thank you. Stacey Atkins-Salazar, your answer, please.
Well, I'm really glad that this question is being posed to us, and I think that Kimberly, as a resident of that part of town, did a great job in summarizing, a lot of the issues that are there, and I'm in agreement. All you need to do is go to Valley West, and it looks different. It does not look like what our Arcata downtown looks like, and we put a lot of focus, even in my platform. That's a big part of it, the plaza and our downtown. But Valley West is important, and it is the first place, it's the first impression of Arcata that a lot of people get. And beyond that, our residents that live there should not feel like they, like the ugly stepsister, as Kimberly put it. That's not the spirit of our town, and we can't keep sweeping and shifting our problems to that part of town. So why can't we make Valley West a place that is desirable to live and one of the gems of our city?
Thank you. We're going to start a new question, and Collin Yeo, you will be the first to answer this. Other than the COVID-19 pandemic, what do you feel are the top 3 issues or challenges facing the city of Arcata?
Well, other than COVID-19, I would say economic austerity coming in the wake of the pandemic, general economic inequality generationally that is at an all-time high in America right now is certainly affecting our city. So that would essentially be my packaged answer for the first 2. I would say that all of our problems are kind of holistically related to the economy one way or another, or most of them are. Certainly homelessness is, certainly a lack of funds for people who have addiction issues or people who are on the margins of society. I would say in terms of like the next big thing looming down at us right now, it would most certainly be something along the lines of climate change, for which we are going to have to spend a lot of money to make sure that our infrastructure and our people are not displaced or ruined by the coming rising tide of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberley White, your answer, please.
So I think that probably in light of COVID-19, we really need to address economic recovery and resiliency. I think the other thing that is really important to Arcata is affordable housing, and then finally equity. We need to make sure that everybody has equal access. With regards to housing, I feel like we could do more. And I think it's time that we do step it up, because as people, as COVID has happening right now in the midst, more people are going to be losing their homes and becoming unhoused. So it's something that we have to address. With regards to economic recovery, we've already seen these businesses close. Just look at the plaza and you have empty buildings. And that is the center of our economy, our local small businesses. And then finally, equity, everything permeates through that, whether it be housing, economy, whatever that is, we always have to address it through the lens of equity and everybody having equal access.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next, please.
I think the three main issues would be, first and foremost, equity and inclusion. This would include housing, homelessness, all of the aforementioned things that we've spoken of tonight. A new lens needs to be looked through in order to see our city from a perspective that is inclusive for everyone. I think that another issue is climate change and sea level rise, adapting our city to sea level rise to continue moving through and continuing our businesses and daily lives, but also adapting for climate change. I think that we need things like composting facilities, closing the waste on our the loop on our waste streams are really necessary. I also believe that an asset management standard needs to be implemented regarding the city's infrastructure, and then also later putting a plan in place, an asset management plan in place, and sustainability assessment of the city's resources. I think that we do not consider long-term purchases and the effects that they might have, and the city maintenance and upkeep on purchases and decisions that we make, and I think they need to be included.
Thank you. Next, Michael Winkler, your answer, please.
Top three are affordable housing, public safety, and environment and climate change. I've worked in the affordable housing field for the last 10 years. I've worked on more than 200 large affordable housing projects statewide, almost all of them solar, rental assistance, code enforcement, Arcata House, public safety I've talked about, environment and climate change. I'm working towards having us electrify all buildings in Arcata, starting with city buildings, have everything in the city and throughout the county powered by renewable energy, sea level rise, rebuild the dikes, control land use, and then plan for relocation. And those are the top priorities, but certainly housing is critical, and climate change and public safety are the things that we critically need.
Thank you. Next is Nick Matthews.
I think the top three kind of are all in it together in a lot of ways. This COVID has been devastating to our economy. It has dropped our tax revenue, I believe, by at least a third. As a business owner, I know that we have struggled this year to stay afloat. It's been a very difficult year for us and everybody else in this town. You can see it downtown as you walk around. I know that Groovy Deals, she's having a hard time, so that's one of them for sure. The homeless issue is, the homelessness is definitely right up there as well. That is something that I agree with Michael that it really needs to be addressed. And crumbling infrastructure. I know that we're right in the middle of this $64 million upgrade of our wastewater treatment plants. That is one of many things that are, infrastructure needs to be improved on for sure. So I would say those three things at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Pitino, your answer, please.
For me, the primary number one item is creating a low-cost solution to homelessness. And one of the ways that I've looked at, and I really fully support, is a campground like Opportunity Village and many other places that have legal campgrounds for homeless people. And a lot of them are self-governed. A lot of times there's a nonprofit involved with them. But I think homeless housing in a low-cost way, like an Opportunity Village. Number two would be our rental code inspection, health and safety, all rental units in Arcata. The majority of residents in Arcata rent, and the majority of them are not protected by inspections. Number three, let's get a dog park. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacey Atkins-Salazar, your answer, please.
Well, housing, we need more affordable and alternative housing. We also need to ensure that the people who are renting in Arcata are being treated fairly. And the current council is working to find ways to ensure that rentals are safe and affordable, and I support this. We need to be creative, thoughtful, and compassionate as we look for housing alternatives for those people without homes. Our economy and businesses, when making policies and decisions for the city of Arcata, we must work together with local businesses to mitigate any negative impacts that those policies or decisions could have. And we must create an environment where entrepreneurs, builders, and creators can not only survive, but flourish. If our economy is strong, we will have more funds to do the work that is needed in our community. And reimagining law enforcement. I would like to see more mental health and healthcare professionals working with and in lieu of our law enforcement. Again, I take it back to the Cahoots program in Oregon, and I encourage people to check that out.
Thank you. Emily Grace Goldstein, your answer, please.
I think all top three issues for me really fall under the idea that we need to meet people's basic needs in a pursuit of equity and justice. So first, as many have said, housing, we need affordable options, low barriers to entry for houseless folks, meaning that they don't have to tick all these boxes before they're given housing. I believe in a housing first model. I also have talked to a lot of folks in Arcata who have spoken to me about the accessibility issue around physical and other disabilities. I am a renter in Arcata. I know how hard the rental market can be, and especially finding something that's clean and safe and up to date. Other issues, mental health care. Again, as many have said, I think we can put in mental health professionals to respond to crises. And then lastly, environmental justice. We need to build that into the infrastructure of our town and have programs that promote environmental justice through an intersectional perspective that looks at income inequality and racial discrimination, as well as climate change.
Thank you. Sarah Schaefer, your answer, please.
Yeah, I think my top three and kind of a top three of a lot of people that I've spoken to in Arcata have to do with housing, obviously, as everybody has spoken on tonight, healthcare resources, and then climate change as well. And I really see a strong tie between housing and healthcare resources, and looking also especially at mental health resources and resources for people facing addiction. And we are living in an opioid crisis, and we can see throughout Humboldt County that it is affecting us deeply here with the number of people that are using drugs and that have difficulty getting clean from drugs. And this creates barriers for accessing housing and accessing other essential social services as well. So housing and really healthcare go hand in hand. And not only mental health care, but access to regular everyday doctors and healthcare for any variety of ailments, you know, one might be facing in Humboldt County. The access is just not there. And then obviously focusing on climate change as well. We are living in a coastal zone with rising sea levels, and you know, the impending crisis can't wait any longer. Arcata's declared a climate emergency, and we need to act now.
Thank you. This will be our last question in the interest of time. And Kimberley White, you will be first with the question. Garbage is a growing problem throughout Arcata. What should the City Council do to mitigate the problem? Kimberley, you're first.
Thanks. At the last council meeting, Brett was talking about Arcata beautification. And one of the things that I've been involved in, as I mentioned, is the Valley West Trash Cleanup Project. And this is something that I have been adamant about for years. I don't do it just once a month. I do it every week, me and several community members. I think we can develop a volunteer task force, not just during COVID, because things have definitely, you see overgrown weeds, garbage needles, the list goes on. I think one of our other candidates took it upon himself to do a cleanup in his neighborhood. I think we can do this. We care about our community. We might not have the resources in the budget, but I think we have the resources in an army of people who love and care for this community. I think we can put together neighborhood task forces and clean up our garbage.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, your answer, please.
I agree with Kimberly on that one, 100%. I did just do a cleanup here in our neighborhood, and it got the best response you could possibly imagine. I mean, I had people walking by me and thanking me over and over and over again while I was doing it. I've always taken pride in ownership, keeping the space in front of my business between 10th and 11th Street as my own. I just got all the weeds and so forth. I think that we can rally our community. And they will take a lead off of those of us like Kimberly there who go out of our way to go ahead and clean things up and lead the way in that direction. I be leaders, really. It really comes down to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Collin Yeo, you're next.
So I agree with a lot of the things that Kimberly and Nick just said. And I'd like to thank Nick for cleaning up that bus stop. And I saw that on social media, and I think social media is a good way to share this sort of information where people can, you know, get together and say, hey, yeah, let's go clean up cigarette butts on, you know, over here or something like that, over on the beach, over at the marsh. You know, I like doing that when I'm on my run. As far as long-term solutions, it's all about structural things. It's, you know, like echoing what Pitino said, more bathrooms. There's a few places where, you know, houseless people congregate, more bathrooms and trash cans there. Something as small as that might help. But a lot of this is a side effect of just having a really unjust economy and not a lot of resources for people who are on the low end of it. So I feel like the more part of Arcata beautification is caring for those people who are on the bottom end of things, and it'll sort of help everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Schaefer, your answer, please.
Yeah, I think especially this issue is kind of twofold, looking at, you know, that cliche of be the change you wish to see in the world, right? In your personal community and cleaning up that personal community. I take an extra bag with me every time I walk my dog down to the marsh. I live in downtown Arcata. I often witness people peeing in my alleyway and leaving their trash, and I'm constantly working to clean up that area. And then also, you know, and that is a community effort put forth by us as citizens and as people in our community wanting to make it a better place and work on this process of beautification, not only for ourselves, but also for tourists, student families, everybody who comes and visits our community. And then also looking at it on the side of the efforts that the city is making on a greater level to just overall reduce waste in general. Zero Waste Humboldt is doing great work, and I know Arcata has made initiatives with them to work towards zero waste events and kind of moving towards the bans that we have on plastic bags, styrofoam, and kind of working towards a larger you know, stamping out of single-use plastics within our community is definitely taking a stand and consistent with the values of beautification and lowering, you know, making zero waste a reality. So.
Thank you. Michael Winkler, your answer, please.
Well, the city has taken a lead role in neighborhood watch and trail cleanup, so I think that we can apply a similar model to engaging community volunteers in doing cleanup. And the other part of it is engaging people who have not been engaged in the communities and been left out of the community to have a stake in the community, to have pride in our community. And zero waste is an important commitment of the City Council and something that we plan to continue. And finally, that I personally have removed on the order of 10,000 graffiti tags and stickers over the last 5 years. When I became mayor in 2015, I took that as a personal commitment. I've cut back on that now with the COVID crisis, but I'm going to be working with Council Member Brett Watson to reestablish that program and get volunteers to help remove graffiti tags and stickers throughout Arcata.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, you're next.
I also definitely believe in a zero waste city, and there are a lot of things that I see inefficiencies around the city. Some of them stem from inequality, and some of this trash is coming from people who are not in a home. And I believe that having public trash cans, more of them throughout the city, would encourage people to put it into a trash can, as well as recycling options. I think that there are some issues with the general trend of leaving things out in front of your home and people coming by and picking them up and reshopping. So instead of throwing away something, you leave it out front. But you know, when the weather comes and changes here and it rains and a couch is sitting outside and the renters don't actually know that they can call the trash company to remove it, there's trash actually sitting throughout neighborhoods. And like larger pieces, sometimes it's not intentional, but it gets left there, gets picked up or moved to another location. And I really feel like the city needs to address that, possibly even including fines for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Grace Goldstein, you're next.
So I'm really a big picture thinker. And so when I think about trash, I'm not looking at trash on the ground. I'm thinking about why is it there? And so as others have said, this is really about providing services to the houseless population because they don't have options. And that's why there's trash that they're leaving, because there's nowhere else to put it. And so if we're getting people into housing, if we're getting them, you know, safe injection sites and drug rehabilitation addiction facilities, then there won't be needles on the ground. If we have sharps containers around where people can safely deposit things, there won't be needles on the ground. And while I really love the spirit of Arcata, where people do take it on themselves to clean up and beautify our town, I think that's an amazing thing, and I'm part of that too. I don't think that the responsibility needs to be on the individual, but that's our job as the city to do something about this problem. And so I also see that we could have a better citywide composting program, because we throw away a lot of things that could end up being composted as well. And so overall, I see this as a community effort as opposed to an individual needing to take this on.
Thank you. Paul Pitino, your answer, please.
You know, if the city took it upon themselves, the staff, if direction from the council, to actually clean up on the main streets like G, H, K, 11th, Samoa, LK Wood, Alliance, Spear, James, the neighborhoods, the side streets generally don't need that level of pickup, but it's the main streets. And I think that it's the city's responsibility, as Emily said, you know, it's the city's job. It's not the individual, you know, I'm going to go out and save my street corner and clean it up every week. It's the city's problem. I think the city needs to be responsible and have a dedicated service of picking up the free boxes and the junk that's left on the main drags. And I think it would really make the town look a lot better and make us all feel more responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacey Atkins-Salazar, your answer, please.
Well, I agree with Paul in that it's not just about beautifying our city, but also it is the city's responsibility to lead that. And I think it's great that as individuals, we are in a community that is motivated to take care of it, and we should continue to do that, but we can't do it on our own. It's just too big of a project. And I think we need to continue to educate our community on zero waste. We have teams of people that are doing a great job on that, but education is the key. It's not only how to reduce the amount of waste or garbage that we have, but also how to reduce our consumption. And I get it, that's a hard sell in our society. We like our things, but then we also grow tired of them very quickly and throw them away or put them in free piles. And those free piles often end up in our trails and in the rural places where you wouldn't expect them to be, but they're not always being put to good use. They're quite often being turned into trash.
Thank you. It's now time for your closing statements, and we will begin with Emily Grace Goldstein. Thank
you. Thank you all so much for listening tonight. I really stand firmly in the values and plans that I've shared tonight. with you all. I have experience in public health and public policy. I have an understanding of finance from my work in the nonprofit world. I have experience engaging with people through community organizing and case management as a social worker. I care deeply for Arcata, and I will never stop fighting for equity and justice for every person in this community. I'll always listen, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Please visit my website at emilyforarcata.com, and it's EmilyForArcata.com. And you can also reach me at the same address on Facebook, Instagram, and Gmail. I really believe in housing, mental and physical health care, education, and environmental justice for this community. Please reach out. Thank you so much for your time, and never hesitate to talk to me. I am dedicated to the democracy in this community and equity and justice for all of Arcata.
Thank you. Next, closing statement from Paul Pitino.
Yeah, one of the reasons I'd like to be back on the council or continue on the council is to make sure that we have our sewage treatment plant complete, make sure that it actually happens, and that we have our infill plan actually happen in this town and happen in an equitable way. You know, for me, I've been on a while and I feel like, okay, I'm ready to transition. I would like to do one more term and help offer institutional knowledge to the new people that come in. And I really look forward to serving with another new person. I don't know how many people I've served with, 10, 15, but I'm really happy to see the interest in people running for council. In 2004, there were 10 for 3 positions. I barely squeaked in with 100 votes. So anybody can make it, and I really appreciate all the competition. Thanks.
Thank you. Camilla Zapata, your closing statement, please.
I want to thank each and every one of the candidates for showing up tonight and doing the good work that our community needs. We are definitely living in unprecedented times, and the challenges we are facing are many. I'm willing to rise to these challenges and work hard to help make Arcata the best city it can be. I will always support programs and policies that build a safer and healthier community. I acknowledge the city is made up of many moving parts and that its resources are finite, especially in these times. While working within existing budget constraints, I believe there's room for a fresh perspective on how to approach dialogue, project implementation, and partnership development, all of which will advance social, environmental, and economic resilience. I would like the opportunity to assist in leading us to a more sustainable future for each individual, our environment, and the future of our community. Please feel free to reach me at camilla2020.org. That's CAMILLA 2020.org. Thank you, and I hope to earn your vote November 3rd.
Thank you. Stacey Atkins-Salazar, your closing statement, please.
Thank you again for providing us with this opportunity. We are in a time of change and redefinition, and I want the City of Arcata to take advantage of that and accomplish as much as we possibly can. I have many ambitious goals for Arcata, but they aren't just goals. They are what our community desperately needs. The issues we are facing are complicated and will require collaboration, thoughtfulness, and creativity, as well as hard work. I am an honest, straightforward, and sincere person and leader. I know how to collaborate to solve complicated issues, and I am also capable of making difficult or unpopular decisions. I know how important it is to engage with as many people as possible before making tough decisions, and that no matter how hard you try, you cannot please everyone. As we work to move Arcata forward, we need to keep all of our people in mind. With the right leadership, I believe that we can build a stronger Arcata. As a member of the Arcata City Council, I will work with you, finding common ground to create a better Arcata.
Thank you. Next, we have Collin Yeo with your closing statement, please.
Hi, I would like to thank all of my fellow candidates here for showing up, and the League of Women Voters for putting this together in a very difficult time. I have built my entire platform from talking to people in town, which is a lot more difficult to do in our current pandemic. I want to make it certain to everyone that I view human beings as the most important thing about a town, the most important component of a town. There's nothing about a town if the community's gone or suffering or in any sort of trouble. So I guess what I want to say is I just want to listen to what the people here need, and I'll respond, and I'll always have my door open. My email address is collinedgaryeo@gmail.com. That's COLLINEDGARYEO, gmail.com. And I'll see you out in the streets. I'll be out talking to people a lot until November. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Winkler, your closing statement.
I'm very proud of the many years of service, more than 20 years, that I've been able to provide to the citizens of Arcata, and the many things that I've accomplished to preserve Arcata and to make this a better community for all the citizens of Arcata. That I'm proud of what we've done to quickly react to help protect at the beginning of the COVID crisis, keeping the city finances very solid, reforming the police, advancing the cannabis industry. I'm very proud of my endorsement by National CR Club, and that recognizes the very firm commitment that I've got to environmental sustainability and renewable energy. I've also worked for many years on hundreds of affordable housing projects throughout California, in Arcata, and throughout Humboldt County. I have proven experience, and I would be honored to serve you for 4 more years. You can reach me through winklerforcouncil.com or my phone number, which is on the city website. Thank you to all the candidates.
Thank you. Sarah Schaefer, your closing statement, please. You're muted, Sarah.
There we go. I just wanted to say thank you to all the candidates and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on tonight. And I'm honored to be part of this and participating along with 9 other candidates. It really shows this level of involvement and excitement about local politics is just the sign of a healthy democracy, and the fact that we all really care about what's going on in our community and in the world. And it also shows the desire for the average resident's voice to be heard. And so I'm ready to stand up and listen to people. City Council is supposed to be a nonpartisan job, and the point of us is to be here to listen to the needs of the people. And I'm really just committed to Arcata, and I'm committed to this community, and to have all voices be included, and to work towards an equitable and safer community for all of Arcata. You can reach me. My website is Sarah4, the number 4, arcatacity.com. And there's ways to contact me via email, Facebook, and Instagram. That's Sarah4, number 4, arcatacity.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Matthews, your closing statement, please.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and for all the other candidates this evening. It's been wonderful to hear all of you and your views. Let's face it, this year is not like any year we've had in the past, and that's partly responsible for the reason we have such a large and diverse group of wonderful city council candidates. The new city council will have many difficult issues that it's going to have to address, and we need level-headed leaders moving us forward into the uncertain future that we're all facing. I have spent the majority of my life running business and solving problems in a responsible manner. I feel that it is important for the next city council to work together, facing and solving Arcata's long list of to-do things, one challenge at a time. Arcata is a very special place in my heart, and my wife and I have chosen to raise our 3 children here in this amazing city. It's time to roll up our sleeves and put some hard work in, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Vote for Nick Matthews, and you'll have a responsible, level-headed leader moving us forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberley White, your closing statement, please.
Okay. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and all of the wonderful candidates. I only wish that we could all be on City Council, because everyone is qualified and excellent. I opened up with a quote from Martin Luther King saying, "It's just not possible to be in favor of justice for some people and not be in favor for justice for all." I have a master's degree in sociology with an emphasis in housing and race and ethnic relations, and I bring to the table my experience as a planning commissioner, a community mobilizer, and my passion for equity and social justice. I will lead through conflict, utilizing my mediation and dispute resolution skills to have those difficult but necessary conversations. If elected, I will bring my background in both affordable housing and the unhoused, my experience with working with at-youth risk and their families, and then of course my passion for deep ecology. I will take lead from my constituents to return our government to by the people, for the people. Arcata is a unique place to live. I want to preserve the values and the ideals that make Arcata special and the reasons why we've all chosen this incredible place nestled in the redwoods and a place that we call home.
Thank you. This concludes our forum for tonight. I would really like to thank all of the candidates for your willingness to serve and for your willingness to speak and give your opinions, answer the questions of your fellow residents in Humboldt County. I'm impressed with the passion of all of you and the thoughtfulness that you put into your answers. I believe that you have all given the voters a great deal to think about and to make choices about. So thank you for being here and taking part. To the public, we certainly appreciate you viewing this Zoom presentation. You can see it on Access Humboldt or YouTube, and that should be available tomorrow. And thank you for submitting wonderful questions to our candidates. Remember to vote on November the 3rd, or before if you have a chance, that's fine too, but not later than November the 3rd. Thank you all for being here tonight. Make democracy work. Thank you and good night. Stop recording.